Hello everybody and welcome to a pre-recorded Zoom on my end because I'm not able to make it to the Friday Zoom because I will be driving at the time. So I thought I'd just do a pre-recorded version of this just so I can basically have it here because there's a lot of charts to go through on my end. So I thought I'd just kind of bring them to you on here. Okay, so yeah, let's get started so I don't waste any of your time. This is obviously the part one, and then Fredo's will be the part two, or it might be the other way around. But anyway, let's get into it. So firstly, this was today on GBPUSD. We had quite an interesting kind of like chain of events with GU because in the morning what we had was a really big run to the upside, and on the left over here we'd grab liquidity on a kind of like a major scale, and then we had a transition, and then price had obviously carried on falling, right? We had continuations. We had a really nice entry here. If you were going to enter just kind of like directly off of the POY itself, then you could have entered there, and your stop, there is a big wick over here. Your stop would have obviously been above there, and your TP being here, or the POY low over here, right? Obviously just depending on how far down you want to target, of course. But I didn't manage to get into that one because I was too busy focusing on EU, which we'll go through at the end. And I actually ended up taking a loss on that, which was a bit annoying. So anyway, it all happens for a reason, but it's totally fine. Anyway, right, so what we had was we had obviously our high, which is up here. We might be able to see it a bit further. There we go. We had our high, which is here, and then we have our low, which is there. This is the lowest point in comparison to this. And we have our, obviously, our kind of like intermediaries of structure over here. Now, originally, what I was looking for was a short within this region here. But I thought that based on this overall leg over here, we could probably get a CBOS, which we ended up getting before a transition lower and then getting into enter, right? This to me is if you take it from a premium and discount perspective, this is obviously still within a discount, and selling at a discount isn't a good idea. So I didn't believe that this would be the true kind of area to sell. So I did stay out of that, thankfully. If I did get into that though, my stop would have been above there, as obviously this is a micro transition. And obviously you have your solidified point here once this breaks and then goes there. So I would have had obviously my sell here. Also for the fact as well, this was a very unsubstantial break. You know, we peaked below and then we came straight above and hardly penetrated it as well. So, you know, if this carried on going lower, then potentially we could have seen some form of retracement into a POY before going down. But we didn't see that, okay? So we're still within this range here and here. And obviously waiting for a CBOS is the most important thing. So, which is what I did. In this instance, I didn't want to just sell directly off of a POY. So I saw that, and then I saw obviously the micro transition here, which you can see price pushes up, pushes down, pushes up, and then breaks. So we get a micro transition within there. Then you get a new kind of solidified point here on a micro sense. A more kind of conservative option would have obviously been to enter, but have your stop above here. But to me, that's too big, and I'm aware with that I'm aware of this risk, and I do think it's valid in my part in the fact that we've taken the CBOS high. We've also grabbed the liquidity of this candle over here as well, and we've then broken that microstructure over there. So that's my reasoning for having the stop there. Obviously, if I had my stop here, I'd be kind of looking at this on a bigger scale, so maybe on the M5, M15, and then maybe I'd be targeting a lot lower. And this did go a hell of a lot lower as well. But that is that, right? And as you can see here, I have this diagram of just a standard impulse, correction, impulse. And I think this is what we were kind of seeing here, right? We had, see our impulse, correction, and then obviously our drop, which you'll see in a minute. Right, so price had literally tapped it to a T. And on some brokers, it actually came in a bit more. Some brokers came in a bit less, but is pretty much to the T on the forex.com. And basically what we had was we had a grab of these highs and then a push down, break of this low, price retraces up, fails to break, and then converts lower, okay? So arguably here, you've got your kind of new solidified high there on a micro sense. I wouldn't move my stop here just yet, more for the fact that I'd want this to break. You know, if I was potentially swinging lower, then I'd want that to break, because we could potentially come and grab these highs before going lower, and there's obviously further POI to be tapped up there, right? So it's always a possibility. That's why I didn't want to do it. But what we had straight after was we had on the pullback within this POI over here, apologies for that, we had this very, very micro OFD, okay? And you can see we have the POI here, reaction, this POI mitigated this wick over here, and then price came back in, tapped, came up, and if I thin my pencil, you'll be able to see that this did actually break that high, so that class is a reaction, and then we had a break straight afterwards, right? So technically now we've had OFD, we've got a new micro solidified point, and what happens after that is we have an entry point, right? Again, very aggressive, but it is valid, and you know, as long as you're aware of the risks, then that's fine. Stop loss probably should have been here, but I do believe in the fact that we had technically this OFD, grab this liquidity over here, just get that right, and then a break, tells me that, okay, this is valid. It has an element of validity to it. I'm happy to risk that, okay? Price then obviously comes in and drops straight after, right? And it's one of those trades where it just goes into your entry, bang, right? Little to no stopping, right? And there's a potential scaling opportunity here. I mean, in my opinion, this would have been a bit forced because we are quite low and we are pretty much at that low. So in terms of having like your whole premium and discount characteristics in play here, an entry at this point wouldn't have been the best, but it's technically still valid because we do have a new solidified point there. And then we have our new range, very, very micro range here. Price pushes up and then obviously pushes down to our TP. And this did run like all the way down, which, you know, I can show you over here. So the entry was, apologies for that. I'm not looking to buy that, don't worry. The entry was over here. First entry was there. And this ran from the first entry, 65 pips. And then from the second entry, which was at the OFD entry right here, it's going to be around 60. Yeah, 62, 63 pips all the way down, right? So with this stop size, let's call it 3, obviously plus spread. And then a 60 pip TP, that's a 1 to 20. So obviously that's brilliant. You know, that's assuming you've taken in at the very top of the entry all the way down to the very bottom and you've TP'd out at the exact points. That's a 1 to 20. But of course, we know that's very unrealistic. And on the scale of the trade, this target isn't always the most realistic thing to do. Okay. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. Cool. So this was GU, and off the top of my head, this was, so it was a cut short trade, right? So what we have is price trending lower. So just printing consistent lower highs, and the same with the lower lows as well, right? Then what we had was a reaction, another reaction, and another reaction, right? So we're showing unwillingness to go lower. And what we do have here is a transition to go higher, okay? So as you can see, price took this low, reacted higher, came back, reacted higher. So this gave my premise for this entry to potentially see a pullback into some of these solidified highs, whichever one it would have been. A smarter option maybe would have been to exit here. But then again, the perimeter for me isn't that great. And I do think this is a semi-realistic view because we do have the equal highs here. It's not like I'm targeting for the kind of like major solidified high all the way at the top here. So that's the reasoning behind the trade. Obviously, I just wasn't writing it at the time because I was trading. By the way, all these trades that I've taken were on a demo account this week. because I did hit my targets for the month last week. I don't want to defy that rule, so I've just stayed out of the live. Anyway, as you can see, price came down, failed to hit our entry, which was a bit annoying, but we did have LG, break of the high, new range here. Then again, we're on the 2 minute, but on like a micro sense, we did have a grab of this liquidity, reaction break. So we've got a micro invalidation here and a new true invalidation there. Price came in, reacted, came down, reacted higher, broke this low, and then came up, and then we failed to break these highs properly. So I just decided to close early here because I didn't want to risk having to wait for this little TP over here to come and hit due to the amount of effort there was to push price up. Bit of like a change of character here, and I just anticipated price was going to carry on going down. Obviously, you can see here it was lifetime, like all the other ones are. And what happened straight after was this, right? So we just completely fell, came down to our stops down here from our original first entry, and it was a good call on my end, and there was reasoning behind it. It wasn't just a random close because I was scared or whatnot. I think it was a valid reason, and as you can see, it is very wicky, very choppy, not a lot of willingness to go higher, and to me, that's just not great. Obviously, with the first trade, with the OFD that happened, I've closed it now, but with the OFD that happened, obviously, price had literally just reacted from the POI and then just ran down, and that's the best type of entry, in my opinion. There wasn't really any kind of like scaling opportunity here. You could say potentially this inefficiency, but again, that's quite discount in comparison to this range here. I would have potentially liked something a bit higher, but then again, you've got kind of this whole like POI here from the bottom of these candles to the top. So it does make sense in that sense, but to me, just not worth it. Cool. Let's close these. Bang, 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 bang. Right. EU, same kind of similar entry. Having my TP here. Price obviously trending lower. And there was just consistent new unsubstantial lows being made here. So what I waited for simply was, okay, we're not really showing a willingness to continue down. It's taken a lot of effort, and we're not really piercing any true significant low, therefore being insignificant. So what I waited for was a transition. So obviously we had a grab of this low and that low, and price reacted, failed to break any real structure here, but then we traded down, and then we broke structure, okay? So we've got this leg, so we've got this low here, and this high here, right? And that's why my stop is below there, because this SC didn't really pierce any, like it didn't pierce that low. So to me, that isn't an LG before going higher. So I'd rather just have my stop here at a safer place, and it's technically the micro range invalidation, right? And again, another tip really that I have is more, if you're trading against the trend, in this instance, I'm trading against this M1 trend on the M1 time frame. I don't want to be targeting highs. I want to be targeting POIs that are within the range, right? Because for me, you know, what we need to see is a break of obviously these highs, but this isn't my target. You know, I think it can go a bit higher than that. We need to break these highs in order to mitigate a POI before going lower. That's kind of like the rule of it, right? Just that, and that's where the CBOS concept comes from. So what we had, price coming into here, but it was very choppy. But you know, I was fine with the actual trade itself. I didn't want to close. I'm trusting my invalidation. And then what we have here is price push down, push higher, and then we have an SC here, right? And again, entry would be at the SC. Personally, if this broke, then potentially I could have had my stop below there. But there wasn't any high that was broken for me personally to say, okay, cool, this is a new range. Potentially even that high. You know, if we did something like this and then came higher, then that would have been better. But we didn't have that, as you'll see. Price came into this SC. And then once it broke these highs, obviously have move stop here. But again, I took this as soon as the TP was hit. So it doesn't really matter. Obviously, if you're holding this, then it would be wise to move your stop there. But if not, then, you know, that's fine. So that was a pretty good trade, nice kind of quick one. And again, it was very choppy here, but once we had that breakout, if you like, and then a retracement back into the SC, we just hit the TP within 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 minutes, which is great. Sorry if you can hear police sirens in the background. There seems to be loads. Hopefully it's not too off-putting. But yeah, that was that trade. Right, here was another one. I was testing out the new colors that everyone seems to be transitioning to. I'm not changing my colors to these, so don't worry. I can't, it just doesn't work for me personally. I understand the whole kind of eyes thing, but I just can't. It doesn't, I don't know. I feel like I can't read the candles properly. Maybe I need to get used to it. But anyway, this was a drill on EU on the 20th, so it was Tuesday. And as you can see here, it obviously been pushing higher consistently throughout. And then we had this transition here. Now, what was good about this trade, I'm just going to fast forward it to the actual finish. There was quite a lot of pointers here, right? So this was a higher time frame POI, kind of like to the T. And then we had our transition here, right? But what you could say is, all right, this could be potentially a CBOS before going higher, right? Totally right. Totally right. But what I like about this is that we failed to convert higher on this low here. Oh, sorry, on this high. And what we had was another CBOS, and then we failed to convert higher again because this low was broken, okay? And then price pushed up, failed to convert higher again. Order flow is continuing to be bearish. So as soon as this SC formed, entry here. See, stop was at this high. Here is a bit aggressive in my opinion. And bear in mind as well, you always got to remember you've got to remember the three things that can happen at a POI, like an SC, right? Or an inefficiency. 1, can react to the open. 2, it can react to 50% of the POI. Or 3, it can, this is a wick, it can break the POI before going lower, right? And that's not OFD, by the way. For example, if price came up and just broke this without any reaction of the POI, that's not OFD. If you have a reaction, you have a mitigation reaction, then your BOS, or your break of the POI, that's your disruption because it shows the POI failed to continuously follow this through. Right? And again, this doesn't say OFD, it's OFC, order flow continuation, down, right? As soon as the this candle closed, this one pushed up, entry in, and then just consistently coming lower again, right? We had a grab of that liquidity, broke lower, pushed up, came down, pushed up, came down, and just hit our TP here, which was this invalidation on the bullish sense. Right, quite a nice trade. Again, it's a reversal, so it's obviously carrying a lot more risk. But this was kind of my thought process behind it all. Right, so this one was a silly mistake on my end. Again, I'm trying to put it in the context as if I'm trading live. But what we had, I've got analysis on the next page, but we had a break of this, a breach of these lows, break structure here and here, and an OFD as well, because this SC was reactive, but it failed to follow through. So we had a break of that SC, and then price came in, mitigated this POI, which is valid because it took that wick out, it solidified, strong reaction, and then we broke the highs again. So we've got this low to this high. This is a valid POI. So I'll give you 5 seconds to think, where did I actually go wrong with this right now? And I'm not saying it lost. I'm saying I missed out on this trade, but why? It's because I didn't account for the wick, right? I didn't account for that. So in real time, I would have lost out on a 1 to 3 or whatever it was. Yeah, 1 to 3. Because I didn't draw my box a little bit higher for the full POI, which is this high to this low, right? Or it wouldn't have been a 1 to 3 in this case. It would have been like a 1 to 2.8, but still, I would have missed out on 2.8% profit, which is ridiculous, just for a silly mistake like that. Here's the whole kind of analysis of it. Obviously, price had a transition here. So you had our high and our low, high, low. We grabbed the liquidity, broke the high, broke this high. Obviously, if we're looking at it from here to here to here to here. Oh, sorry, not there. To there. Again, transition on that side because this is a solidified point on this scale. Very bullish in my opinion. But obviously, as you can see here, we had a CBOS, price pushed up, we failed to react, so we came down and we broke it again, right? And then price breached higher, came lower, mitigated this POI before going higher, and then it mitigated the POI and I missed the TP. I missed the trade, I missed it all, but it was a perfect trade. Bang on, one of those trades that it hits and reacts straight away, perfect. Could have scaled in here, but bit chasey in my opinion, and obviously you're buying within a premium market, which you don't want to do. You want to be buying in a discount market. Cool. Next trade. This was yesterday. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't yesterday. I think it was the day before yesterday. I could be wrong. Could be Tuesday. I think I just did this analysis for it on yesterday on the 21st. Yeah, I did it in the morning. So this was, yeah, the day before. Right. So, again, price is trading higher. Then we have our CBOS. Price pushes higher, fails to convert, pushes lower. Right? I take the entry on this M3 POI with my stop on this M1 solidified high. There is a solidified high on that point there, so I had my invalidation there. Could have had it here as well to be extra conservative, but I think that was totally fine. And then we had a strong reaction down. Price pushed up, pushed down, pushed higher. As you can see, there's a scaling. And once we had the break of these highs, we then converted lower. We broke this low. So I think having a stop there is perfect, and obviously if you entered on this point, then you can have your stop from here to there, so you're risk free here, and you've obviously not got your stop here for this entry, right? Very simple, pretty textbook. Again, a reversal, so it's carrying a lot more risk, but I think it was totally valid. Right. Did I go through this one already? No, I didn't. Right, so this one was yes, this was a profit cut short. Again, based on my trailing stop, but that's fine. Excuse me, give me 1 second. Right. Cool, so what we have here is EU, right? So we had a very sharp move down, and we had hit our very sharp move down, and we had a CBOS here on the lower time frames, right? And we had a break, push up, break down, and then a very small transition here on in comparison to this higher time frame break of structure there, right? And then price pushed up, pushed down, pushed up, but failed to break this high. And then we took these lows, mitigated this wick, and then pushed higher. Pushed down, and then came up, right? And we broke this very tiny high here. So because of this transition, I don't know if I've marked it out on this scale. I might have done, hold on. You can see it clearer here on the M1, right? I'm just going to walk you through it with the entry here. So we had this break, push higher, push down, push higher. So you had this all as my POI perimeter because my SL was going to be below there because this low took out these lows before going higher and creating new highs, right? We'll see, this is the transition I said from earlier. So the first entry was here. And then we had, we'll see, a reaction, break of this low, and then a new high. Okay, so what I had was this low to this high, and then we have our new POI here. Personally, this is a bit of an aggressive stop. I do think the POI in this, sorry, the invalidation on this low is still intact. So there is an entry here, but my POI, sorry, my stop would have been there. And as you can see through here, obviously it was just trading, but there's a lot of effort to push price higher. So best to be safe and putting stops at a micro solidified point, which is there, right? Took the liquidity, broke structure, new range. Right, obviously this invalidation technically was respected, but, you know, I'd rather be safe in this instance here, obviously with entering there. And then what I actually didn't put on here, I put it on my Discord because I forgot to screenshot it originally. Here was that price. So obviously just going back to that, obviously our new invalidation is there, and then we have it here, and then price push down. And basically I said that if price doesn't convert higher and we have a failed conversion after the CBOS, which we do obviously have here, then I'm going to close at this low, right? So I just moved my stop to that low because the break of that low would have meant a failed conversion in my opinion, right? So I came out with 0.9% profit, which in my opinion is still great. You know, 1% of any large figure is a great number. So that was basically the thought process, right? And obviously, as you can see here, if this fails to convert higher to TP after the CBOS, I will close early. And it did fail, and it came all the way lower, but this true invalidation down here actually did hold. So this would have been basically a CBOS on a bigger scale from this low to this high, and then a reaction from the POI here, and then taking price higher. And there would have been a potential scaling opportunity here, but I wouldn't have entered there because there's no POI. But there you go, right? Invalidations do work, but sometimes you do need to adapt. And this could have broke a bit lower, taking these lows, and reacted from a POI here and then gone higher. So I just decided to close. I thought it was the best decision, and I'm happy with it. Cool, this was a textbook trade. I didn't manage to get a before screenshot of this, but this was just a typical continuation, right? Solidified low to your high, right? And then we have our CBOS here, and then we have a break of, we have a sweep of this high, mitigating this SC, and we have a reaction of that, and then price pushes higher, pushes lower, but fails to break. So to me, that's unwillingness on a very micro scale. And we also take this low, break the high, and this high as well. So that to me just confirms bullish, right? Right, and obviously the entry was at this low, at this SC, and I had two different types of entries here. So you could have the the SL at the POI invalidation, or at this micro range invalidation, internal range invalidation there, right? I would have rather been safer and have a 2.06 risk to reward than have a 2.25 risk, because we all know this could break before going higher, and your range is still intact because you've got that low to that high to that low there. Oh, right, this is very long-winded. And there was an external TP over here, and this was, again, all kind of foreshadowed from the CBOS. Failed conversion lower, reaction here, into the POI, solidified point, POI entry, in there, same thing again, move your stops here as soon as that breaks, as soon as this breaks, move your stop there, and then that's it, right? So this whole kind of thing was characterized by this. And if you missed out on the entries over here, the entries were here, right? There was an entry even here as well, you could say. But, you know, if you missed that as well, then fair enough. And yeah, this was perfection of a TP, right? This is one of the best feelings in trading, honestly. Two best feelings is when you hit your entry and it just goes straight away, or when you hit your TP and it goes straight to break even / SL. Best thing. Shows you've got it completely right. And in this case, it was an instant reaction and an instant reaction. So this was a completely right, very, very valid 3-tick trade. Let me get rid of these. Cool. Final few. Sorry, this has literally dragged for so long. Right. And I'm sure some of you will have some questions about this, so please don't be afraid to reach out. Okay, cool. This was yesterday, around kind of like the coming to the close of close of London. There was a very clear, obviously, thing up here, right, which we discussed, and obviously our entries longs were here on the previous chart. Had a grab of that liquidity over here and there, which was our TPs. And then we broke this low here, CBOS. We had the failed conversion higher, and that was confirmed by the break of that low. So now we have our range from here to here. Stops at the invalidation, entry at the POI, but very unfortunately, we missed it. We ended up doing 50% of the inefficiency, and we went lower. So that was a shame, but can't win them all. I'd rather miss a trade than lose a trade. I'm not going to force one here. But yeah, it was fine. We already had a winning trade there anyway, so you can't complain. All right. Get rid of these two. How many have we got left? We've got this, and we've got this one. Right, okay, cool. So again, this was a kind of another unfortunate one. We had, see our range low, or low, high, and then we had our CBOS, mitigation, LG, and beautiful SC there in my opinion. But do you remember the 3 things that I told you about? You can mitigate the open, you can mitigate 50% or close, that's or C, close, or LG reaction, right? And annoyingly, we had LG reaction, right? So the only thing with that is this is also out of session, in my opinion. 6 p.m. is a very, like, between 5 and 6 p.m. London time is an awful time to trade. Always has been. You always get very dead liquidity, and a lot of the time I found things don't respect. So, and also as well, it makes sense in the fact that this failed because we failed to break this high. Technically, it's a failed conversion higher, so we fail lower, and then we just come back up and take the high, and then price comes back in and then goes higher. So that was a bit annoying, but you know, you can't win them all again. And that's why, you know, it's good to wait for a conversion sometimes, especially on like an M5SC of this scale. You know, if you waited for a conversion here, you would have not lost the trade there. But again, up to you and your model and your rules. But that's that. Right. I think this is the final one. Oh. Right, so EU, this was today. We had a big move up, and then obviously a big move down. Price had obviously taken lows, reacted, broke this high, and we have this and this over here for a buy, right? But I was focused on structure itself, and structure here internally was bearish. I saw it as this. I think this was a mistake on my end because I just justified the buy. And I don't think I saw this at the time because this was a loss, by the way. So anyway, high, low, break of structure here, right? Failed to convert higher, so we moved lower. But I saw that as my kind of reason to sell. So we failed to hit the actual POI here. I don't know if you can see. If I zoom in, we didn't actually hit it there, right? It's a very, very micro difference, but we didn't hit it. So I had my entry on this point. Obviously, this was a solidified high from there to here on a very internal sense. And we did react. We pushed in. We filled the inefficiency. And then we had a very micro transition within here, as you can see, denoted by the green lines. We had a push down, grab of the high, grab of the low. We printed an SC there, and that to me was a really relatively good formula. I think if I waited for this break, then that would have been a lot better. But unfortunately, you know, we reacted, broke the low. Obviously, there's a valid reaction there. And I moved my stop to this high because I knew if this high broke, that's an OFD, and my invalidation is definitely going to get hit. And what we had was, I'll just do the same one here. Yeah, sorry. The break of the SC. So instead of losing 1%, I lost on my demo. It was minus 0.38 taken away from the 1%. So that's 0.62. So I lost 0.62 off this when it broke. And we reacted off of that. And then price had a transition, took the high, mitigated this, and then died. So it was a bit of an unfortunate one. I think I was buying too low as well, in the fact that potentially price had more room to the upside to come into premium, or more premium than it was over here. And that's exactly what happened. And obviously here, true invalidation could have been the blue line. Because if you're looking at it from this standpoint, grab the highest reaction. But I saw this. You know what? My mistake is I should have waited for that to break and then enter there. Because then we might have seen it had a different story. Okay, just thinking about that now, I think that's definitely, and you know, this is relatively unsubstantial in terms of the break, right? Very choppy, strong move up compared to the break, just not the best options to sell. So that was a mistake, but at least my loss was pretty much cut in half. But that is everything I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know this was a bit of a long-winded one, and obviously you've got Fredo's section now, or you've just watched Fredo's. I know you've watched mine. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you found some value. And if you have any questions, please do let me know, and I'll speak to you all in the next one.